Mr. Keskar, you talked about the catch-up that we're seeing between India and China.
Sure.
You talked about the infrastructure deficit, which has always come in the way of India playing catch-up. But as we look at the regulatory environment in India, we've got a new civil aviation policy. Mr. Singh was talking about regional connectivity.
Sure.
How do you read the landscape and its evolution?
I think India is trying to grow faster than they're doing it right now. One of the ways to do that is how do you open up new airports, how do you connect more people, how do you find more cities, okay? And as Ajay just said, tier 1 to tier 1 is saturated, so you got to go to the smaller towns. We have many airports in India that can be developed, which Airport Authority of India is looking at. And I think the way we look at it, Boeing, is once you build these connections to smaller cities, they're going to feed the bigger airplane like these. And that's how India is going to grow further. And if that infrastructure can be kept up in pace, I think all our projections that I just gave you are going to be thrown out of the window because it will be much faster than that.
Speaking of the importance of India from a Make in India perspective, and given the kind of aspirations that you have to do business in India, what can we realistically now expect going forward?
Well, Shereen, we've been doing this since 1991. So Make in India concept
is not new for you. Yes.
I'm going to say it was not new to you. It has a new impetus. It has a new champion. And it has now a focus, which wasn't there before. In the past, you did the deal, you have so much offset to do, and you would follow that, okay? Now there is enhancement on top of it. There are skill development and other things that India is trying to do, and I think we're taking part in that, and that's what you're going to see. Plus our military business has opened up, and that's going to help us to do even more. So I think overall we are going to contribute significantly to Make in India.
But speaking of Make in India, and part of the new defense procurement norms, one of course is this business of design, develop and make in India.
Yeah.
And there have been tweaks to the offset obligations as well. So do you believe that the regulatory environment is sort of something that you can benefit from more than you could perhaps earlier?
Look, we are poised to explore that, okay? And I think, like I said, I'm mostly focused on commercial side of the market. But obviously I know what's going on my other side of the company, and I think we will see some enhancement in that side also.
Okay, let me talk to you about the near-term events on the economic calendar, and we've got the budget coming up now on the 1st of February. What would your expectation be? Every year we talk about, at least as far as ATF is concerned, some relief. I remember you were with us a day after the last budget presentation, and you took on the Revenue Secretary on why the government hadn't done anything about ATF. Are you holding your breath at all this year?
We have made some of the similar points that we made before, but I think the larger point is that aviation helps growth both for the states and the country. And we have been saying that, look, you must bring down the cost of aviation if you want people to fly more. It's not right that India should be the fastest growing aviation market in the world, but we should have the highest cost aviation turbine fuel in the world. We should have the highest cost airports in the world. And if we are ever to develop our own hub airports like Dubai and Abu Dhabi, and if we are ever to create global airlines in India, we need to bring down the cost of aviation, and that can be done in a variety of ways. GST is coming up soon. We would love for them to say that, look, ATF, just as credits, taxes paid on ATF are allowed by way of set-offs in tax. If India could allow that, and this is a global practice, so we should be allowed to do the same thing. In terms of airports, we need to bring down, we need to rethink this whole model of OMDA that we have. We need to bring down the cost of those airports. We need to bring down the cost of the turnarounds so that more and more people can fly into India and out of India. So we need to be globally competitive if we are to compete globally.
But speaking of this, dream that the government has put forward by way of regional connectivity, and you've been fairly confident of being able to capitalize on that. What will it really mean over the next few years? How realistic is this dream of regional air connectivity?
I think it's absolutely imperative that we connect airports in small towns. Today we have 400 airports in the country, 80 of which are operational and are connected. There are another 30 airports which are completely operational and ready and have not a single flight. So we need to look at all these airports, get them into the mainstream, and like Dinesh was saying, a lot of the traffic from these small airports will go and feed large planes like the ones that we have ordered now. So it is absolutely imperative that we connect small towns. Now the regional connectivity scheme is something that we have welcomed. It needs some tweaks. We have talked to the government on how to make it even more efficient, but this is something that the country must do.
You talked about on-time performance, and there is currently a fairly public spat that is on the issue of on-time performance. How do you see that playing out for you?
Well, we don't understand why there is a spat. This is the same set of data that has been used for more than 10 years. And it is the same set of data that has been used by some airlines to talk about their great on-time performance. Now, by the same set of data, if some other airline, in this case SpiceJet, has the best performance, and this is all government data, mind you, I don't see why there should be an objection. But if DGCA wants to take a look at how this is done, we are very happy for them to do it. From our perspective, what is happening is great for the consumers. Let everybody fight to improve on-time performance. Let everybody fight for that #1 spot. Absolutely fantastic for the consumers. As far as SpiceJet is concerned, we had committed that we will improve operating performance, and for 6 months in a row we've been #1 in on-time performance. We've had the lowest cancellations of any airline in the country, and we are very delighted that we have been able to achieve what we have done.
Well, it is good. Competition is always good news for the consumer. But Mr. Keskar, let me ask you about the risks that you see for this market. We've talked about everything that's good, but what do you believe are the risks? I remember, several years ago, our last conversation that we had, you were talking about, in aviation markets that were developing, capacity or overcapacity could have been perhaps a risk. Is that a concern here?
I don't see overcapacity as a problem right now. But the two things I watch carefully is the fuel price, which we already talked about. But other factor which is really important.
What's your own assessment on where you see fuel prices?
I think it's going to be range bound, like you said. Okay, we think 60 will be the tops for the time being. But the other factor which is important that most people forget is the devaluation of rupee. Because our fuel price is based on multiplier of the fuel price times the devaluated. So if it's 68 now, it was 58 just a year ago. And so if that number keeps going up, it's going to have some dent on the demand requirement because people will feel better to go by train or something like that. But I think the risks are limited, and I think infrastructure will be another key risk to watch for.
Yeah, well, you're sitting with your most aggressive client here, but who else are you talking to in the Indian market, and can we expect any further announcements from you anytime soon?
Well, we have 3 customers in the Indian market. We cherish them. Of course, SpiceJet is the talk of the day today. But we have Air India also and Jet Airways, and I think they'll continue to build on it because the growth rate in India is over 20%. Nobody can sit still. They got to buy it.
Do you believe there's room for another greenfield airline, perhaps, in India?
I don't know about that. To us, it is numbers of aircraft that matter. Whether it's one airline running all of those or 10 airlines, it's not that important. But the new entrants, I haven't seen them do very well. So we'll have to wait and watch.
Mr. Singh, let me ask you about the environment in the short term, specifically when it comes to pricing, etc., because we've again seen a price for onsu in the Indian market. What would the projections really be as far as price is concerned?
Well, we always hope that we can bring up yield and that prices will be same. For the last 1 year, of course, all the airlines have been making money. SpiceJet has been making a little more money on the operating side than some of the others. It's difficult to control. So we will see what happens. I think the solution really is to look at markets which are less saturated and to look at products like ancillary revenue. We've already
What has been the growth in ancillary revenue?
Well, we started at around 5% when we started in December 2014. That number has gone up to 16% now. And we are hoping that with the initiatives that we are taking, we can take up that number further. So we will focus on that. We will focus on, dynamically rejigging our network to make sure that that we fly the most profitable routes, and we will look to see that we don't go into completely saturated markets. So we have to look at a bunch of those issues as well as keep trying to knock down our unit cost.
So let me end then by asking both of you, and let me start by asking you, what would the aspiration be maybe next 3 years for you in terms of margins, in terms of revenues, and in terms of profitability?
Well, I don't want to give guidance, but I think we've done well in the last 2 years. We've nearly doubled our capacity. We've had higher profits than we ever have in our history. And we hope that in the next 3 years we can grow responsibly and profitably. That's it. That's all I want to do.
Mr. Keskar?
Well, I hope the fuel price stays below 70 since you're talking about a 3-year horizon. The exchange rate is balanced. And I think the capacity Indian market can absorb, so I'm not worried about overcapacity anymore. So let's wish for the best.
Let's hope for the best, Mr. Singh and Mr. Keskar. Thank you very much. Once again, congratulations to the both of you. And thank you very much for joining us here on CNBC TV 18.
Thank you so much.
Well, with that, it is time for us to wrap up this CNBC TV 18 special from all of us here. Goodbye. Many thanks for watching.